Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Brent. Online I go by Alchemist Apollo, and today I have another video in my Astrologer Reacts series. And today I've got this guy, Mr. Simon Dan, and he's got a clever title here, which is Destroying Astrology in Less Than 10 Minutes. So we're going to see today if Simon Dan can convince us that the thousands of years of astrological wisdom can be debunked in a mere 10 minutes. So we're going to watch this video. I'm going to give my insights, my reaction, and my commentary to what he says here. Now, I did look at this guy's channel. He's got 416,000 subs. So this guy's pretty popular. And he's got a lot of videos on debunking flat Earth. So he's got his feet dipped in a lot of these, debunking these conspiratorial pseudosciences. So let's hear what he has to say.
Did you know that apparently there are only 12 types of personality in the world?
Already, astrology does not claim this at all. This is already a false statement. The claim that astrology says that there's only 12 personalities, that is just an absurd statement. There are 12 zodiacs, but the 12 zodiacs are expressed all throughout different planets and all throughout different expressions. It is all one cyclical cycle.
Well, if you didn't, then today you'll be in for a big shock, because we're taking on one of the biggest tinfoil theories ever: astrology.
I like his
Hello everyone,
animation.
and welcome to another episode of Tinfoil Tuesday with me, Simon Dan. Yes, if there is one conspiracy that is tolerated more than any other by the general public, it is astrology.
Hang on. Tolerated by the general public? There's a reason why so many people are interested in astrology and study astrology to such depths. It's not a tolerated. Nobody tolerates astrology.
Confused with astronomy, astrology is basically where you make stuff up about your future based on the constellation that the sun was in on the day you were born. There are actually relatively famous people that do this for a living.
And by the way, this guy's starting his arguments by strawmanning astrology. He's not setting it up. He's not building up a case for astrology. He's starting by just attacking. This is, in my opinion, a weak approach.
And I'm here today to tell you that not only is it complete gibberish, but the whole concept was completely wrong from the very beginning. I thought it would be a good idea to take a look at one of YouTube's biggest astrologers. So when I saw a video from a Kelly Rossano about how to be successful by using astrology, I simply had to take a look. But before we take a look at Kelly's video, we're going to bust the whole of astrology wide open.
Let's do it.
The constellations were first devised over 2,000 years ago, and when it comes to the 12 signs of the zodiac, since that time there appears to be a slight problem. So the way that astrology works is your star sign is yours because the sun was in that constellation on the day of your birth. So I was born on November the 19th, which makes me a Scorpio.
No surprise there.
Or does it? You see, the Earth is subject to a phenomenon called precession, which basically means that over tens of thousands of years, the Earth wobbles slightly on it.
Yes, and we understand this in astrology too. This is actually, the precession of the equinox is actually what creates the ages of astrology. For the past 2,150 years, we've been in the age of Pisces. But the interesting thing about the age of Pisces is, and the ages in general, is that the precessions go actually opposite to the rotation of the zodiac in the constellations in general. So what that means is that we entered at the 29th degree of Pisces, and we've slowly descended down into the 0 degree. Now we're entering the 29th degree of the age of Aquarius, which is the most intense degree, the anaretic degree, and now we're going to go backwards to 0. Instead of it going 0 to 29 degrees, the ages and the precessions are actually backwards, which creates a challenge. Just a little fun fact.
On its axis. Now what that means is that the stars do appear to change positions very slightly over time, and in the 2,000 years since the constellations were devised, yep, you've guessed it, they have moved slightly and now appear in different positions than they used to.
Okay, so this would be a good attack on Vedic astrology, which actually uses the constellations to make reference to their astrological natal charts. Because in Vedic astrology, Indian astrology, they use the constellations. But in tropical astrology, also known as Western astrology, we actually don't use the constellations in the way that this guy's setting this up. We use the seasons of the Earth. It's tropical, so it is relating to the seasons of the Earth. And within that is how we set up the astrology. So it's not necessarily the stars. Yes, the stars have an effect, but we measure the stars where they're at based on the actual Earth.
So what does that mean for your star sign? Well, using this piece of software, which allows me to go back in time, we can see that on the day of my birth, the sun was in Libra. What this means is that the sun was actually in the constellation next door to the one you think is your star sign. And quite tragically for you, if you follow astrology, then you've been reading the wrong star sign your entire life.
So I'm curious, is this a debunking of it? Because this guy's basically just making an argument for Vedic astrology. He's not necessarily making an argument thus far that says anything about astrology being wrong. So let's see where he takes this.
Sorry about that. Okay, now that we've completely ruined astrology's credibility, I'm ready for...
So that's my point. He's just set up the system for describing Vedic astrology. This is how he just gave us his Vedic star sign. That's all he's done in this video is say, hey, in my Vedic astrology, I'm a Libra sun. That's all he said. And he hasn't debunked if the stars have energy behind them, if that energy affects your personality, or any of that. He's just said, hey, since they made astrology, it's shifted. Yeah, we know. And in fact, you should look into tropical versus Vedic astrology before you even try to make an argument like this.
My lesson with Kelly.
Now, what is this music?
Know when to launch using astrology, and I'm Kelly Rosano. Why I like to launch after new moon. New moons are a fresh start. They give you a new beginning.
It's a fresh start for the lunar cycle. That's about it.
And whenever we're going to start something new, launch a new product, launch a new service, start a new job, publish a book, publish music.
By the way, just for you guys at home, for your own knowledge, if you do want to set intentions, it's actually best not to set intentions directly on the new moon. It's best to wait like a day or two before you start setting intentions because the sun is actually overpowering the moon, right? And we're working with lunar magic. So you want to make sure that you're not being overridden by the sun. So if you wait a couple days for that new moon to start getting into that waxing cycle, that's actually a better time to set intentions than on the exact new moon.
We want to have the best energy around it. We want to use the best energy so that what we do brings us the results that we want, brings us the success that we want.
I've got no arguments with that, but why does it have to be when there's a new moon?
So this guy he's not really like addressing on a philosophical level argumentations thus far in this video, and we're already 3 minutes and 34 seconds in, so you got only about 6 minutes left to destroy astrology.
Why not use
And you want to ask why you want to do it on a new moon? Well, it's because when the moon is new, it is empty, right? Empty of the sun's light. The moon does not produce any of its own light. And when we're talking about light, we're talking about energy, right? Photons, energy. We're talking about bringing the sun's illumination to the moon. And whenever it's empty, well, it's time to fill it up with that light. It's time to bring forth that into your life. It is about bringing it into your life, right? And it's also, in many ways, it's about starting a new cycle. If you keep up with your life in lunar cycles, it actually helps you to kind of keep track of life. This is what they did for thousands of years. Now, when the moon is getting full, you're getting to a point where essentially the moon is full of energy, we're full of energy, our cup is full of energy, and then it's time to pour out. So from a full moon to a new moon, we are getting rid of things. We are letting things go. We are releasing opportunities so that we can be empty again. And that's why we do it on a new moon.
Use the astrology to help you do that. Now, that's not to say that there are not people launching successful projects, publishing successfully who don't use astrology.
So what you're saying is it doesn't really matter. Okay?
But those of you that do follow me, you do use astrology. So let's use astrology to help you grow your business, publish your online course, and make you more successful.
But you just said it doesn't really matter.
No, it's not that this person didn't say that it doesn't matter. This is about using intentional energy. This is about putting out your intentional energy. You can start a business whenever you want, but who's to say that it's going to be as successful? And even when you don't start a business on a new moon, it doesn't mean that it won't be successful. It's not about whether or not you're going to harness the deepest part of astrology. It's simply about knowing where you're at and what's going on in the sky.
It's all sounding a bit wishy-washy at the moment.
New moons are the best time to launch something new. Now, here's what a new moon looks like.
Look, and she says they are the best time to launch something new. She didn't say the only time to launch something new.
You can't see it.
Great joke. So funny.
And so that's why I don't recommend launching on the day of a new moon.
So she does say
I like
that.
to give it 24 hours, 48 hours, or longer.
Well, that's not the new moon anymore, is it? Come on, Kelly. You're really not helping here.
You want to wait until the moon is starting to show its crescent, when it's starting to show its light. Because on the new moon, it's like being in the womb. You can't see the new birth. You can't see the new project, the new growth.
What? In the womb?
See, that's where people like this guy, this scientific, very left brain kind of thinking guy, can't rationalize or understand why the symbology of this is important. When we talk about Earth, when we talk about female, when we talk about feminine energy, when we talk about that kind of connection with the cosmos, that's a vital part of life that you could be missing out on simply by having this guy's left-brained kind of perspective, which is it has to be logical, it has to be rational, it has to make sense, and that's the problem with these people who debunk astrology. It's that they don't see the deeper symbology behind anything, behind the Bible, behind spirituality, behind astrology, behind any of these things. Yet those things are so important. When a man puts a seed in a woman and he creates a baby out of that, that is a magical process. And the same is true when you start a business. The same is true when you set intentional energy into the world. You are putting in essence, your seed into motion, into creation, and having an intention behind that is way better than just going in and raw dogging reality.
Right.
You need to wait until there's light, the beginning. And that comes hours after the new moon, days after the new moon. You begin to see, we're on a new moon.
Mm-hmm.
But it's because you've waited. Oh, bloody hell.
So I love new moons to launch something new because you're using the energy to propel you forward.
By the way, even if you didn't believe in astrology, syncing a project up with a moon cycle is not something that is debunkable. It's more or less about scheduling and organization. That would be an organizational thing. It's not necessarily that you are saying that it's incredibly magical, right? You could just say, I'm going to start a new project on the new moon. Or you could say, I'm going to start a new project next Tuesday. And what's the difference between those two ideas? It's not like there's magic or anything that's being debunked here. It's just that there's this guy, Simon Dan, who's over here just kind of watching this and criticizing it without any actual input. He's just sort of being like, I don't get it. And it's like, astrology destroyed in 10 minutes? That's a clickbaity title as far as I'm concerned.
You're using the energy to empower you to start something new and be successful.
Okay, so I need to use the energy from a kind of new moon that may or may not make a difference to my project to empower me to start something new that might or might not work. Okay. I think.
So new moons go hand in hand with a new launch, a new beginning, a fresh start. Now here's an example.
Now, I can guarantee you that this is something that Simon Dan has no clue what he's looking at. So, and let's see, in this chart we have a new moon in Capricorn. So the new moon is 15 degrees because the sun is at 15 degrees, right in the center of December or January at this point, where the moon is aligning with the sun, right? And then opposite, we have the north node in Cancer. So this was probably a few years ago, 2019 or so. We've got Mars over here in Aries. So that's exciting. And that's going to be making some aspects to this new moon as well. We've got yeah, this was in 2019 or so. We've got Neptune and Pisces around 14 degrees. So very interesting just to kind of see. Oh yeah, I guess this is right here. So Capricorn solar eclipse. This is a solar eclipse. This is specifically a very powerful moon that we're talking about here.
Example of what a new moon looks like in an astrology chart. And this is an incredibly powerful
it's an
new
eclipse
moon that happens to also be a solar eclipse.
It's a solar eclipse because of the north node and the south node of the moon. Those are of the moon, right? It's the lunar node.
Experiencing this in January. It will be the first eclipse in 2019. And this is where you can see the sun and the moon are coupled together in Capricorn.
That's a bit greedy of Capricorn, isn't it?
So that's this only guy's perspective on what real astrology looks like. His only perspective is let's watch it again.
In Capricorn.
That's a bit greedy of Capricorn, isn't it?
That's what astrologers look at. That's what we study. We study charts because it has endless information in here. So when I'm not looking at the screen, when I do the monthly astrology or a new moon report or a full moon report or even the year ahead, I'm getting ready to do 2019, 2020. I'm looking at charts.
Mm-hmm.
And when you look at this chart, you can see, look at this new moon sandwiched between Saturn
and Pluto
in Capricorn and Pluto in Capricorn.
And let me guess, that means if you're Capricorn, you will meet someone mysterious with the initial G. And luck will revolve around the number 6.
You see, this guy thinks that this guy's associating that astrology has you just like see some planets and you're just like, I'm just going to make this up. But this guy doesn't have any idea of the actual complexity that it takes to make an astrological prediction. So he thinks astrological predictions are just, I can trick people by saying Saturn and Pluto mean that you're going to meet somebody. And maybe if somebody has a Cancer rising, maybe that would be the case.
Do something positive at work and you will reap the rewards.
That would be good advice in this case. In fact, it would actually say that with Saturn and Pluto at work, you'd have situations that would be somewhat kind of tragic or coming to an end because that would be a Plutonian theme. So it actually would not be so much about doing good at work, but it'd be about learning how to navigate your work environment in new ways.
Anyone can do it.
Which is all about
anyone can do astrology.
World success and business. So Capricorn has a role to play in your business, in your launches, in your success. So if you were to launch, say, something new here in January, I would suggest that you wait until January 6th, January 7th, January 8th, and so on to do your launch.
Okay, I'm rapidly losing interest. She's literally making stuff up as she goes along.
So this guy's rapidly losing interest because he has no actual background. He's got no actual understanding of astrology. And so he's trying to get this complex, convoluted natal chart or transit chart, and he's trying to understand it, but he doesn't care because he starts off his video by trying to debunk it, by putting astrology under this perspective, this poor philosophical argument, where in reality, if you want to really approach something that's been studied for thousands of years, you should actually work to build it up to the best. So you should try to give astrology good credits, but by first understanding it and then take it down. Don't just straw man astrology because you don't actually have an understanding about it and just throw it under the bus and say, well, she's just making things up, so it's fake and so it's wrong.
Let's move on a bit.
But your window of opportunity to launch will be from the new moon to the full moon.
Right, so now it's literally half a month. You can't make this stuff up, can you? Well, actually, you can.
Now, I want to say that there will never be a perfect time
Right.
to launch.
This was one of the guy's criticisms towards what she said earlier. This woman, Kelly, she says there will never be a perfect time to launch. Right.
There's always going to be some sort of challenge in there.
Well, look, now we understand that astrology gives you some insight into understanding those challenges and understanding how to approach a situation. When you launch a business, it's not just, haha, I launched a business. It's, I launched a business, now I wear 50 hats, and now I have to do 7 different tasks every single day, and I have to understand where I'm going to do these things. And all of those are little stories that we're telling. It's important to understand it's not just left brain. It's not just 1 + 1 = 2. It's very much so, how am I going to interact with this person? How am I going to get these things together? And in reality, what you start to understand is that we live within the context of a story, and putting the story in relationship to moon cycles is something that's so simple to understand, yet this guy hasn't done anything to disprove it.
So what was the point of the previous information in your video? I think we've seen enough of Kelly's video now to see that astrology is a load of old cobblers. Please do not spend any time looking at it, and please do not act on any advice.
Look at this guy. Look at this guy. Don't be curious, says the scientist. Don't be curious. Don't try to make observations. Don't try to understand things. That's not very scientific, Dan. In fact, that's very much so avoidant. That is an avoidant behavior.
You buy an astrologer. Right, that about wraps up another Tinfoil Tuesday. Really pleased to tackle this one. It's another one of my bugbears.
This guy's got so much confidence that he actually even did anything. He's like, well, I talked about the precession of the stars. I didn't do anything to talk about whether or not stars have energy, whether or not they affect us. Even if they're shifted, do they still have energy? Do they still affect us? Are there 12 personalities? We never learned any of the answers to these questions. All we've learned is that this guy Dan here, I think that's his name, doesn't actually understand astrology. And that's going to be the theme with a lot of these astrology or Astrologer Reacts series videos, is that we're going to understand that these people have never in a day opened in a single astrology textbook, because they start with astrology is fake, it's wrong, and it's a pseudoscience, and that's the end of the argument. And so that's why they're actually practicing pseudoscience instead of actually studying something that they are debunking. What kind of science is it when you say something is wrong and then leave it there? That's not science. In fact, that's anti-science. It's very pseudoscientific.
The other biggie for me is psychic mediums, and I'll be tackling them in a big way soon.
A big way. We'll have to see if he actually uploaded that video, because I would like to even address that video as well. But clearly this guy hasn't really spent too much time studying any of this. But if you guys enjoyed this video, leave me a comment. Leave me your opinions. Let me know what you guys thought of this video. Do you agree with Dan here on his perspectives? Did he destroy astrology in less than 10 minutes? Or did he accomplish absolutely nothing and put a video out there to his followers, his 416,000 followers, to avoid people to look into astrology, to do their own work, to do their own spiritual journeying? So let me know what you guys think below. Thanks for watching.